Good afternoon. Most people who watch a baseball game really don't like the umpires. They're markmen. As soon as they walk on the field, they can do no wrong or do no right. Excuse me. Every call, is bad. What was wrong with you? But the truth be said, it's been reviewed. Most of their calls are right on. They only miss a small microfraction. It might be a bang bang play at first base, or pitches in and outside of the zone. But most of the time, they're 99% right on. And it's my pleasure to introduce to everybody former Major League umpire Dale Scott. Dale, welcome.
Well, thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me. I had so much to do today.
Yeah, you mean you're not practicing your throw out signal and toss somebody from the game or anything like that?
I hurt my shoulders, so I'm trying to cut down.
Hey, I was a catcher in high school, and everything now hurts. So
yeah, no. I got you.
So Dale, what made you want to get into umpiring? Was it a young age, or were you just like, obviously you played baseball when you were a kid? Did it just seem something like you wanted to do, or because not many people want to get into umpiring?
Well, it wasn't my first choice. I obviously was going to be first baseman for the Dodgers when I grew up. I mean, that was my deal. I just found out at a relatively early age that I couldn't hit, field, run, or throw. So apparently that's something you kind of need to do. So I played baseball, organized baseball, up until ninth grade. Growing up in Eugene, Oregon, at that time we had junior high, which ninth grade was your last year at junior high, and then you're going to go into high school. And in high school, you have a varsity team or a JV team. And I was going to be about 3 rows underneath the JV team if they had a team. But I loved baseball. I loved baseball growing up. That was my favorite sport. And a friend of mine in Eugene that had, he was about a year older than me, and he had umpired the summer before. And he said, why don't you check out umpiring? He said, it keeps you in the game, keeps you involved in the game, but it's also a good summer job, makes some money. And I thought, that sounds interesting. I mean, I certainly had watched the umpires a lot since I sat on the bench a lot, so it gave me something to do. And so I thought, yeah, that sounds great. So I was 15 when I started. You were supposed to be 16. I turned 16 in August, but I talked to the commissioner of the Lane County Umpires Association, and I said, please, I'm 16 at heart. He said he took a chance, and so I started umpiring, and I loved it. It just was a job. It's not for everybody. No. It's a unique personality for any sports official. It's a unique calling, and not everybody has that in them. Just like I would be horrible in healthcare because I just don't do well in those things for many reasons. But I just really enjoyed it, and the thing about it, Bob, is that umpiring, sports officiating in general, but umpiring. Even though it's the game of baseball and you do it, and I ended up doing it. That was 1975 when that started, so for quite a long time. But every game's different. I mean, you never know when you walk onto the field what's going to happen. Even though you've had thousands of games under your belt or whatever, you have no idea what may happen that day. You may have a perfect game. You may have a 22-21, slugfest. You may have 2 triple plays, which, by the way, I had in Fenway one night.
You were there that night in Fenway?
Yeah, I was at third base.
Oh, wow. Were you like a big fan when that was going on outside of your umpiring? Were you like, holy shit, what I just saw?
Well, here's the story on that. Gary Gaetti for the Twins is at third, playing third. And the Red Sox got runners at first and second, nobody out. And Gaetti kind of looks at me and goes, watch this. We're gonna roll up a triple play, and we laughed, ha ha ha. Boom, right to him, touch third, throws to second, throws to first, and and it wasn't even a close play at first. I mean, he was out by a step and a half. I mean, it was just a
bang bang
around the horn, made to order triple play, right? And so as guys running, and of course their dugout's right there at third. He's looking at me going, ooh, pointing at me like he called it, right, which he did. So, I don't know, 2 or 3 innings later or whatever, runners at first and second, nobody out. And he looks at me and goes, we're going to do it again. I go, yeah, right. boom, boom, boom. We do it again. Now, I believe at the time, and maybe it still is, the only time two triple plays in one game. I don't know if it's happened again. I'm pretty sure that was what I remembered from that. I don't remember what year it was,
I
but
think it's the only time that it has happened. If I
yeah, and but it was insane. And both triple plays were a made to order, third, second, first. It wasn't like diving catch and guys, passing runners and all this stuff. And it was and the play at first, I think the second one was a little bit closer. One of them was a little bit closer than the other one, but they still weren't that close. I mean, compared to when
Right.
And so that I was there. Yeah, I was at third base when that happened, and Gaetti called both of them.
Did you not want to grab Gaetti and go down to Atlantic City and play, blackjack or something?
Well, I said, I hope you're playing Powerball.
Exactly.
I mean, you have a few numbers to throw my way, a little bit.
I bet you there was a big old smile on his face when he turned to look at you after number 2, too.
Oh yeah. He was. I think he wanted to high five me, but that would be not right.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Anyway, so I started umpiring when I was 15. I was umpiring and working at a radio station all through my senior year in high school. I also started doing football and basketball at the high school level. I enjoyed it. I was officiating year round, and it just was in my blood. But baseball and umpiring was really what was obviously for me my best sport and one I enjoyed the most. And another guy that was a couple years older than me, this was when I was about 19, he had gone to umpire school a few years earlier, and he didn't get a job out of it, but he said, Dale, you should think about going to umpire school. It is the greatest experience in the world. If you love umpiring, and if you have the time to do it and the money to do it, he goes, it's a umpire fantasy camp, so to speak, or boot camp. I mean, again, it's not for everybody, but if you are really into umpiring, I thought I was a decent umpire. I went there, I was an idiot. I mean, the things that you learn there, and it's just ingrained, and it's amazing. But he told me to check it out, so I thought, and of course, if you score high enough, you do well enough, you have a chance maybe going to the minor leagues. But my whole motivation, and it's a great story. I was going to go. It started right after Christmas. Bill Kinnaman School had 2 schools, one in Florida, one in San Bernardino, California. I was going to San Bernardino, so that one started real early because it was over. They would go right to Florida for his other school, so it was an earlier start than normal. But anyway. I thought, well, I was going to go when I was 20, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to spend New Year's Eve down there at 20 years old in a barracks while everybody else is out having a good time. So I delayed umpire school 1 year. This is my priorities now, Bob. Apparently, drinking on New Year's Eve was a priority over my umpire school experience. But anyway, I went to the school. I was a class of 81. I was 5th in San Bernardino, the top 5. I just made it the top 5, went to the advanced school in Florida to join the top students of the other 2 schools in Florida. And then the top 13 that year of the 50, there were 50 at this advanced school, the top 13 got jobs and guaranteed jobs, and also you got to minor league spring training, assigned to a minor league spring training spot either in Florida or Arizona. And they didn't tell you how you rated, but all I know is I was in the top 13 because I got a spring training assignment and a job. The last day, it's a week-long advanced school. The last day, the guys that were on the bubble, in making those slots, they would run in through the cages. We'd have cages set up with pitching machines because you're calling pitches, right. And then we'd have fields where you set up base runners and you fungo and have 2-man system and you're running all that. The entire day, some guys were sent to the cage 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times because they wanted to see him again and see him again and see him again. They didn't call me once, so I knew I was either in or I was out. They had already decided on me because as the day went on and they weren't calling me to the cage, I thought, man, on one side maybe they got me in, but of course I'm thinking, man, I'm so bad they don't even want to see me in there again. They just wanted to, And so we found out the next day, and I was, of course, thrilled, and that was the start of my professional career.
Did you, now, when you got called up for the first time for the one game in '85 in Detroit, or in Kansas City, or Detroit?
It was in Kansas City, but they were playing
Kansas
Detroit
City versus Detroit. Okay,
yeah.
Yes. What was it when you got the call and you were walking on the field for the first time? Because I related my first time off air to you, walking onto a major league field and seeing my heroes. What was going through your mind? Were you just like totally freaked out, or like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening?
Well, it was a situation where it was a one-game makeup from an earlier rainout that year. Neither team, it was a day off for both teams. They were both coming in from wherever they're coming in to play the one game, and then they were both leaving. So the crew that was coming in was a crew. It was Jim Evans' crew. One of the guys on the crew, Nick Bremigan, it was his week off, and so normally his week off ends on Sunday, but until this makeup game, Monday was an off day, and then they were going to Oakland. He wouldn't have to be in Oakland until Tuesday. Well, now they got this makeup game, this one-game makeup, and so they told Nick, listen, just go ahead and go to Oakland. We'll send a AAA guy up to just fill in for that one game, fill in your spot. So the game was on August 19th. I found out, my birthday's the 14th. I think I found out on my birthday, or it might have been the day after my birthday. I think it was the day after, but I get a call and they said, hey, I had American League spring training earlier that year for the first time. I didn't anticipate getting any games during the season that year. But I get a call and said I was going to be in Omaha, and they said, hey, listen, on the 19th, that Monday, we want you to go to Kansas City for one game. You'll work third base. Don't bring your plate gear. Just bring your base stuff. It's just a one in and out, boom, you're back to Omaha. I said, great. So a lot of times when you're called up from AAA, it's in the middle of the night, or it's when you walk off the field of your own AAA game, and they say, hey, you got to be in Detroit tomorrow or whatever, and you have little time. You're scrambling to get over it. I actually had a few days because it was planned out that way. So I was thrilled. I was nervous. I was excited. I was a whole bunch of things. Flew into Kansas City. We went to the game. It was Jim Evans was the crew chief. Dan Morrison was on the crew. Ted Hendry, who's a native Oregonian, lives down in Arizona now, but and has for years. But Teddy had the plate. But here I am, and we get to the stadium, and I just have kind of a duffel bag thing of my base stuff, not my big trunk that I usually travel with. And I put on a blue T-shirt that I'm going to put that's going to be underneath my blue button-down umpire shirt. And Jim Evans, I don't know if you know him, but a very, very dry sense of humor.
Yes.
Jimmy goes, you a little nervous? I said, oh, of course I was nervous, but I said, oh no, I'm good. He goes, well then, you put your T-shirt on backwards, right? I have. So I look down and go, well, yeah, of course. I set the trends, Jim. Everybody's doing this now. Then we started laughing. I switched it on. I thought, you idiot. So so we go out. Now it's Detroit who are the defending world champions. They had won in '84. And the event, of course, we don't know it yet, but the eventual world champion, right, '85 Royals. So two pretty good teams. And we go to the ground rules, and here comes Sparky, and here comes Hauser, and they both look at me, and they said, "Hi, Dale. Welcome." And I'm thinking, they know my name. Well, yeah, they have it on the side of the dugout. They, but I'm thinking, I'm very impressed. That's right. So we do that, and now I run out to third base, and Royal Stadium at the time, beautiful stadium.
Yes.
Just a gorgeous stadium. This is a stadium, and you know about stadiums. This is a stadium that was built, opened in the early 70s, that is not dated. Like some 20, 30-year-old stadiums look, it's still not dated now, and it certainly wasn't then, but it's just a beautiful ballpark. So I'm out there, in shallow left field as the team runs out, the Royals, to warm up, and I'm looking around like, what am I doing here? How did this happen? And George Brett's playing third base, and he looks and goes, "Hey, Dale," and I go, "Oh, hey, George." He goes, "Your first game?" And immediately I look down like I had a wet spot or something. Like it's like I look, I go, "How could you tell?" And he starts laughing. He goes, "Oh no, I just haven't seen you around." I said, "Oh yeah, well yeah, it is my first game." He goes, welcome to the American League, you know?
So they were busting your balls even before the game started.
Oh yeah. They know who you are. I mean, they may not know it's your first game, but they certainly know that they haven't seen you much. I mean, I had seen Detroit in spring training, maybe a couple games, and I think I saw the Royals. But regardless, it's a newbie. The game ended up going 10 innings. I had 2 calls. One was a check swing on Brett that I called him out on a strike 3 check swing, which I thought, well, this will be fun. He'll come running out now, and he won't be quite as jovial, And he came out and he just said, well, first game, he got one right, I guess. George was a good guy. I mean, he's like any player, could get a little perturbed sometimes, but he was pretty funny.
You mean the home run at Yankee Stadium where he absolutely went ballistic?
Well, I think that might have been an extreme. One time, this wasn't this game, but one time I was at first base and George was the base runner, and there's a check swing, and the plate umpire said no, and they came down to me and go yes, and George looks at me and he goes, my God, dude, that's the worst call I've ever seen. I said, oh, George, I've got many more worse ones than that. I said, don't you worry about it. And he starts laughing, But anyway, the game went 10 innings. My only other call was a fair foul in the 10th inning. That eventually it was fair, and he eventually scored and won the game, whatever. And that was it. Shipped back down to AAA, and that was my one game in '85. But man, it was a thrill. It was an absolute thrill.
What now? Tell us the difference. In people don't realize, maybe they do realize, but in the minor leagues, you only have 2 umpires. You got the plate guy and the guy at second who's covering all the bases and things like that. Is you really learn how to call a game with just 2 umpires as opposed to a crew of 4, don't you?
Well, that's how you learn at umpire school. You learn the 2-man system. And now you're only 2-man to AA. And in AA, you're 3-man. In
Okay.
AAA, you're 3-man. And a lot of times 4-man in AAA because you have rotors that go up and down and stuff. But you're now when I came up, AA was also 2-man. So
right.
I was AA through A-ball and AA, 2-man. And yeah, that's what you learn in umpire school. You learn the 3-man and 4-man system in real time when you're in that league or whatever. When you get moved out, I mean, we know the basics of it, but the
right.
nuances of it is something that, because they don't cover that multiple umpires. They just cover a 2-man in umpire school. And in a way, a lot of times 2-man is pretty easy, because if it's not mine, it's his. If it's not his, it's mine. I mean, there's no trying to figure out what it is. But that's what I was saying earlier about thinking I kind of was a good umpire until I got there and realizing that I wasn't even close, because you are taught footwork. You are taught a runner at first in a 2-man. The base umpires in between first and second. On a line basically between the plate and the outer edge of the dirt circle of the mound, and if the pitcher throws to first, that happens very quickly. You have basically you should be able to get 2 steps in before you're set for a call. Well, if you lead off with your right foot, you're going to have to take 3 steps because just to square up. So you have to start off with your left foot. I mean, who thinks of that? I didn't think of that. But those are the nuances. Those are the technicalities that you're taught in taking double plays in a 2-man, where you have a play at first or a play at second and a play at first. One guy, you're calling them both. So it's all footwork and learning when do you move the head and all this stuff. But it's much more technical than just 2 guys went on. Oh, okay, here we go. Let's go umpire. And that's what I mean about just the genius of umpire school. Even if you aren't trying to get into professional baseball, you learn so much that when you go back to work high school or college or whatever level you might be working, you really have a complete understanding of what umpiring really is.
Right.
And it's an amazing thing.
Who took you when you were a rookie umpire? Your first year was '86. Who was there? Your crew chief. Who was your crew chief in '86?
Well, '86 actually at that time, the 4 youngest guys were what they called vacation relief. So I worked with
that's right. Yes.
multiple crews. I'd usually stay with a crew at a minimum one week, but usually it was 2-week intervals. But it might be. Sometimes it would be 3, it depended, but I was bounced around all the time. My first full crew chief, they changed it up the next year in '87, and I worked with Don Denkinger.
Now, who mentored you the best? Who was your best mentor? Who did you look up to the most as an umpire?
Well, there are really three crew chiefs that I worked a lot with and really helped shape the umpire that I became. Early in my career was Rich Garcia. I worked with Rich in 88, 89, 90, and 92. And that he's Richie, outstanding umpire. But he was great with younger guys because he was a hell of a mentor and teacher. You know, some guys are great umpires or whatever field, but not that great a teacher. They just don't, it doesn't take anything away from their abilities. It's just that it's not one of their fortes. Where other guys are, in my case, are really good umpires, but also they have that knack to be able to see what's going on at all times and help relate to guys. He was one of them, and he was very key early in my career. Was Richie. Later on in the late 90s, in 94, 96, 97, and 98, I worked with Dave Phillips. And Dave, another outstanding umpire, well-respected umpire, strong umpire, completely different personality and skill set of Richie, but certainly, some of the stuff that Richie was so great at helping as a young umpire, Davey was good at in other areas. It's hard to explain, but I took a lot from Davey also as I kind of formed my own. It's like anything, Bob. You get a bunch of stuff. You process it. Some of it you use. It works for you. Some of it doesn't work for you. It doesn't mean it's bad advice. It just doesn't work for you. And that's all part of the thing. And the other one was Joe Brinkman. Joe, a longtime umpire. Joe is one of my favorite guys. I mean, he's just a great guy on and off the field, and I learned a lot from him. So those three, and then I became a crew chief. I worked with other crew chiefs, obviously coming up. Jim McKean, Jim Evans, Don Denkinger, Tim Welke, Larry Young. But those three that I mentioned were the three that I really was able to take the best of those three and kind of put it into me, and then I was off on my own.
Do you still keep in contact with some of these guys, or most of these guys? I know some have passed on that you umpired with,
right?
But do you still kibitz or give them a phone call like, you really blew that call, dude? What was wrong with you?
Well, I do. Davey and Richie, a lot of texting. Once in a while we'll talk or whatever. Joe Brinkman, every once in a while. Joe and I rarely text. Every once in a while we'll just call. He calls me Duck because my Oregon Ducks. So the first, I'll answer the phone. He'll say quack quack quack. It's like, hey Joe, what's up? I work with Rocky Rowe quite a bit. I worked with him a couple of years when I was with Garcia. I worked with him all the years I was with Dave Phillips. Rocky, just a great guy, funny guy. And we don't talk that often, but I picked up the phone and called him, I don't know, about a month or so ago, and we talked for an hour. We laughed our ass off. I mean, I've had the opportunity to work with some and meet some just unbelievable, not only characters, but just great people. And that's, I'm very, very blessed that way.
I was talking with Rich Key, the Dodgers team photographer, yesterday on a Zoom chat, and we both agreed the characters from the game, they just don't have that anymore like they did when we were growing up as kids, or even when you were umpiring. I mean, we were telling Jerry Royce stories and Jay Johnstone stories. They were all like big kids. And if Jerry wasn't pitching, you didn't know what the hell he was going to do, whether you're going to get a hot foot or you're going to get, shaving cream in your jock or whatever, or he would dress up as the grounds crew and rake the field. And, they just don't have those characters anymore. It seems like once David Ortiz retired, it's everybody became corporate suits almost, and they just don't have that, the camaraderie that they used to. That's just
well, no, there's no doubt. I saw quite a transition from 86 until 2017, which was my last season. And I barely worked that season because I got hurt early. But it all, for us, and the big change, I think for us, and in a lot of ways for baseball, was 2000. They combined as far as umpires, they combined the leagues. We now worked under the commissioner's office. We were both American and National League. We were just major league umpires, which, by the way, I think it was a change for the better. I think that's a better way of doing things. But that also was the transition where baseball for us suddenly went from the good old, game and characters to corporate. Yep. And it just changed. And now when I first started and well before I was there, the pendulum was way too. I mean, the inmates ran the asylum. I'm telling you, there were things that umpires did, and you didn't have that corporate lockdown mentality, but that all changed in 2000. It didn't change overnight, but that's certainly when it started. And now everything goes through legal. You can't do anything without going through legal. It's all got to be vetted. When they came up with the sliding rules with catchers and stuff. Right. I was still working then. We had binders this thick about all this, and it's all written by attorneys. I mean, it's people that have never been on the field. I mean, the rules committee has people that were on the field, including one umpire. I think Brian Gorman was our representative at that time. Which is obviously, for years there was no umpire on the rules committee, which it makes
no sense,
zero sense. But for years that was the way it was. But we're now represented too, because it's easy to say, well, we want this rule. Well, okay, well, how do you enforce that rule? How are you going to, because that's what we do, So you that's great. You want the, it's like the Supreme Court. The Congress makes a rule. The Supreme Court says, well, you can do that, or no, you can't, or whatever. And it's kind of like that. But anyway, it's just so corporate now. It's all legal. Everything goes through legal. Everything is written by legal. It's really taken a lot of the fun out of it. And I understand it. We're litigious, what's the word? We sue a lot here in this country.
My wife's an attorney, yes.
And I mean, I understand the reasoning, but it doesn't make it that you like it. Now, like I said, the pendulum was way over on this side, and I'm not saying that was right, but it has gone so far away the other side now that it's with umpires. We used to have some characters out there. And pretty good umpires, but certainly had some personality. You could see who was working the plate, and after a couple of pitches, go, oh, that's Dutch Renner, or that's Frank Pulley, or that's whatever. And now, partly because of how baseball wants everything to be so corporate, you can turn on. Sometimes I'll look. I'm not sure who's working the plate until I see a number or something, because it's all pretty basic, and there's not a lot of differentiating from different guys. So same with players. I mean, you used to have guys that were just goofy as hell and do some wild things and stuff. And I'm sure that still happens in clubhouses and stuff, but you just don't see that type of thing, on screen anymore. I mean, you just don't.
Well, Bernie Carbo told me the story. Bernie was a character. I mean, Bernie could have been a lot better than he was, because he had demons. And he told me one time when I was talking to him, he said, and Fisk has said this too, without, Bernie's home run and Dewey's catch in Game 6, my home run never happens. And Bernie told me, he goes, I was so high when I hit that home run. I was on all kinds of pills, caffeine, and I smoked a doobie in the bathroom before I went up. And he said he was floating around the bases, but he was a character of the game. I mean, he had the teddy bear that he would take with him, Mighty Joe Young. And, you had Spaceman Lee with the Red Sox, who just three bricks shy of a load anyways, but he is funny as all get out, that's what's missing from the game. You had the whole Billy Martin, Steinbrenner thing where he get fired every 5 minutes, and that got old real quick. But you don't have that anymore. It's like you said, it's all corporate, and unfortunately now it's all analytics, which drives me nuts.
Well, yeah, that's that. As far as how the game is played, that is, It's almost, Bob, it's like, do you still want a game or do you want a video game?
Exactly.
If we could look at stats and say, well, this guy is going to hit this guy and this team, okay, so 3-1, they win. All right, next. It's like you could put all these numbers in, but and that's where umpiring with instant replay. Listen, I'm a proponent of instant replay because we cannot beat technology. People now are watching games in super slow-mo with high definition 3D blah 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 cameras and on 80-inch screens, and we're just not that good. We're pretty good, but we can't beat technology. Now, that being said, it gets to a point where now you're talking about a computerized strike zone or an automated. It's like, do you want this game to be officiated and played by humans, or do you want it to be a video game? And I'm not sure. It's one of those things of be careful what you ask for. I tell people that if a shortstop, bases loaded, 1 out, 9th inning, shortstop, ball to the shortstop, perfectly made double play. I mean, the game's going to be over. Perfectly made double play, and it goes under his glove and 2-run score. Now, do you go to replay and go, well, after further review, he usually makes that play, so we're going to give him 2 outs.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course you don't do that. I mean, the guy made an error, and it's very unfortunate, and he normally never does that, and that game should have been over, but guess what? It didn't happen. But with umpires, they want perfection, and then they want you to get a little bit better after that. and so do we, as far as that goes. We don't go out there thinking, I can't wait to maybe I'll just miss 3 today, or whatever. I mean, you're striving for that, but it gets to a point where it's almost, to me, almost ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing. I've been watching baseball since I was a little kid in the 60s. And the play at first base, the bang, bang play at first base, you guys are right, like probably 99.3% of the time. Obviously, if it's right there, it's, tie goes to the runner, the old adage. But you guys very rarely miss that play. What do you look for? Are you looking for the glove, or are you looking for at both that and the sound of the runner hitting the bag?
You're watching the runner's feet hitting the bag. You're listening for the sound.
Okay.
And just to catch you real quick, tie goes the runner is not true. It's, did the throw beat the runner, or did the runner beat the throw? If the throw didn't beat the runner, he's safe.
Right.
That would be a tie because it didn't beat him, but we never say tie. That's just an umpire thing. Very nerdy of me.
Damn umpires, man. Go ahead and toss me, man.
But you know what? Funny story. People like Don Deckinger, who I worked with, who started in 1969, I believe, his first year. But when he came up, there were obviously umpires that had been working in the 50s that he worked with in the late 60s. But when the technology for slow motion replay first started, I want to say in the 60s, I'm guessing, somewhere in there. But umpires were scared to death of it because they thought, oh my God, we're going to get crucified now that this technology is out there, right? And they were really fearful of what slow motion replay was going to do. And of course, you see it now; it's so primitive, But still, that was a new technology, and guys were horrified by this. As it turned out, it backed them up so much versus the times that they were wrong. It actually was a plus for umpires because it showed, like you said, you watch a bam play at first base, and there's no way he's out. He's out, and then and the guy calls him safe, and then they show it in slow motion, and the foot just beats the throw, and it's, and so slow motion actually ended up being, for the most part, a plus for the umpires because, and they were thinking it was going to be a complete negative because they thought they were going to get crucified on, so it's, we're right a lot. If we weren't, we wouldn't be in that position.
Absolutely.
But we do make mistakes. And if I miss a strike 3 pitch, I should have called a strike 3 in the bottom of the second in Pittsburgh in May with nobody on, it's not a huge deal. I missed that the very same pitch in September with 2 contending teams in the bottom of the 11th. It's a huge deal. So missed plays or missed calls also are situational. If it happened in a really bad situation, like Jimmy Joyce, uh,
Yeah.
you know, it's Don Denkinger in the World Series. That's a tough thing to swallow, and I get that. And people want perfection. Then they go, "How can you miss that? My God, how can you miss it?" And really, the Jimmy Joyce thing is what really got us right to where replay was expanded and got us where we're at. But that being said, um, you know, we just don't miss that many.
No, you don't.
And we always say, I mean, I guess it's apples and oranges, but if we made as many mental and physical errors as the players, we'd be fired in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
A player 3 for 10, he's in the Hall of Fame. If we were 3 for 10, we would be so far gone.
You're spinning records at some radio station in Boise, Idaho, man.
Oh man, I mean, spinning the hot new gangster polka station in Coeur d'Alene.
Now that I got to hear is gangster polka.
Well,
I got a mental picture of Ice-T doing gangster polka or something. Here's the thing, Dale. As an umpire, a lot of people fail to take into consideration. You guys are human beings, just like the rest of us. You're going to make mistakes, but like I said, most of the time, all of you guys are pretty much right most of the time. And unfortunately, like Don Denkinger and guys like that, those calls that they miss, it sticks out. But what's the hardest call for you to make as an umpire? What's the toughest one for you, or was?
Last call? No, that's not. No, actually, I made that one pretty well. But thank you. I tried the veal. Well, check swings are tough. Check swings are because they're very fast. Usually, a lot of those black bats are hard to pick up versus a more traditional colored bat. Sometimes your background is a deterrent just because you're trying to and there's so many, and there's really the rule book says if they offered at the pitch. Well, what the hell does that mean? I mean obviously if he started to move his bat, he was offering at it. So check swings are something that you need to be focused, ready, and quite frankly, you get better at calling them through experience just by seeing more and more of them. And those are tough calls. Catch, no catch in the outfield can be very, very tough.
You usually, if you're a base umpire and say there's a hit to right center, and you're the second base ump and you're going out for it, it's hard to discern if he caught the ball, especially if it's a backhand or something. Did it hit the ground or not? Because it's that black surface with the glove in the ball. It's even on instant replay, it's like wow.
Well, some are extremely hard, and plus these outfielders have pretty big gloves. You could have a ball actually skip, but it skipped from the webbing into the glove. I mean, it never actually hit the ground, but you see a skip, and so it happens like this. So of course you're gonna think no catch. Also, you can be working a perfect angle for it, and then maybe two fielders converging, and all of a sudden a second fielder comes in and dives where his back is to you now. So now all of a sudden you have zero angle on it, or a completely different angle that isn't as helpful. So those could be, very tough. Obviously, anything out, spectator interference, did it hit above the line, below the line, is a home run, is it not a home run? Our first few years of replay were just boundary calls from foul pole to foul pole. And thank God for that, because here we are. You hear about these stadiums that are fan friendly. Well, fan friendly means umpire nightmare, because anytime a fan can reach onto the field, that is a potential issue. As far as making a call and that kind of stuff. And so you have a 300 something foot fly ball out to the left center, whatever. You're going out on it. You're going to be 200 feet away or whatever it is. You may not have the greatest angle because it was hit hard and going quick. And you're trying to develop an angle. You may have a bunch of white shirts in the background. You may have the sun shining off something, giving a little glare. You may have shadows out there, depending on the type of day. You have a fielder going up. The ball's in the that area, you have a fan or two or several reaching, and all of a sudden the ball's on the field. Okay, what happened? And it happened just like that. And so now you call home run, and so they no the fan. Excuse me. So you get together with your three partners. And I had a home run. What do you have? I thought the fan might have touched it. What do you have? I couldn't tell. What do you have? I thought he touched it, but I can't really. And we're the only four guys in the entire stadium that doesn't know what happened, because both teams have now seen it on replay. The people sitting in the stands, it may not be on the big board, but now they can show it. But it used to be they couldn't show it on the big board. But they have monitors throughout the stadium, so they can see it. Obviously, the millions of people that are watching at home can see it, and the four guys that have to come up with a ruling do not see it, and they have to get together, and as a crew chief, you just go, you've got Spanish, you got a home run, you're not sure, just go for a home run. Because you're just trying to make the best educated guess as you can make, because you're not exactly sure. Now some are more obvious, but others aren't, and it didn't make any sense to me that all this goes on when everybody else knows what it is. Why don't you tell us what it was? Because you saw it on replay by 2 or 3 or 4 different angles, and we're still trying to figure out what happened here. It just didn't make sense. So and people say, well, how could he miss that? It's obvious. Well, it's like I said, your background, your shadows, the sun might be hit in a certain way. You have right when it's about to hit that point of demarcation, you suddenly have somebody dump a beer, or you have some hands come out, or you have a fielder. It happens so quickly. It looks real obvious up in the state, or watching on TV or whatever. That's obvious. What's he looking at? But from where we're at, on the field level or whatever, I'm not making an excuse. I'm just telling the truth. That's just the way it is. And so those can all be tough calls. Frankly, to be honest, the bang bang force out isn't. It can be hard calls, tough calls, close calls, but they're not even on that scale compared to some of these other ones that I've mentioned, because those are usually not a lot of frivolous stuff happening. It's either he beat the ball or the ball beat him. That's that's basically it. And of course, the fielder's on the base and all that stuff. But some of these other ones are very tough. So that's why I like replay. And let me tell you a story about replay.
Sure.
First year they expanded replay. I'm working in Miami, and the Dodgers are there. That's when Mattingly was with the Dodgers. And we had a tie game in the top of the 9th inning, and the first hitter for the Dodgers was, I believe it was Puig, who hit a single. So he's at first base. So now and I'm the second base umpire. He attempts to steal second, and I call him out. And so this is the first year of replay, and Mattingly comes out. That first year they had to come out, and then we would wait for the bench coach to give the signal that whatever. Now they just stand on up in the dugout. But so Don comes out, and now I had Mattingly as a player, and so I'd known him a long time, and so he comes out and he goes, yeah, Dale. He goes, I think he got in there. I'm just waiting to see. Maybe we'll take a look at it. I go, yeah, that's all right, Don. So we're both standing there looking at the Dodger dugout, and I go, so it comes down to this, huh, Don? We just stand here awkwardly looking at each other, and he goes, yeah, pretty much. Because he's not arguing. If we didn't have replay, he'd be arguing.
Right.
But now we're just, so he gets the signal. Let's go check it. We go check it. I was wrong. We correct it. We put Puig at second. I'm pissed that I'm wrong, but we get the call right because of replay. We get him at second. Next guy hits it off the wall. He scores. That ends up being the winning run. So if we had not had replay, all I would hear about is how I screwed the Dodgers by calling a guy out that should have been safe, who would have scored the next hitter, in this game. And you're going to see that every 20 minutes on ESPN. And it looks like I blew 7 calls that night when I blew 1. But the point is, we had replay. We get it right. It's a side note, if that. They may not even mention that the call was reviewed.
Right.
But even if they do, they go, originally called out, they reviewed it, he's safe, now he scores. They just move on. Why? Because the play, no matter how we got there, the play was called correctly, and you moved on. And so I would tell my guys, we never want to miss calls. So that's the thing we do not want to do. But I said, because guys would come in after a game, after they'd been, after review had flipped a call, and they'll be, I can't, I believe I missed that. I said, yeah, but just remember, until replay, you would have not only missed that, but they would have been talking about it, and there would have been an argument, maybe ejections, and God knows what. And if it's a huge call, it's going to be like I said, every 20 minutes about how you screwed this and da-da-da. Now, it's not even mentioned. Does it make it better? No, because you didn't want to miss a call. But, we did what we were supposed to do, and that's get the play right. The other thing just to mention on replay is a lot of guys say, oh, it takes too long. It's taking way too long. The replay's taking too long. Okay, well, a lot of times these are the same people that said, we need replay, for God's sake. Well, where's replay? Why don't we have replay? And I always try to remind people that, okay, first of all, we have cut down the replay response significantly from once we've gotten used to what we're doing and all that stuff. Some replays do take longer because they may be more complicated with awarding of runners or something, or it just may be that close. They're trying to get every angle in before they make a call. But the point is, before replay, what did we have? We had arguments. Okay, so I don't buy the fact that, it takes too long. We would have stopped the game for the argument, if it wasn't for the replay. At least now we're stopping it for something that could correct it if it's wrong, which is what everybody's been bitching about at the beginning, at the first place. So I get a little frustrated when they say, it just takes too long. What are they looking at? It's obvious. Well, it's a lot easier, again, to say that sitting at home and not having any responsibility for it than somebody that has responsibility for it, because let's be honest, Bob, it's happened a few times. You come from New York for the replay, they say, yeah, the call stands, he's safe. And then 30 seconds later in the replay center, all of a sudden a different angle comes through because you had already called it now, and it shows them obviously out, and you go, and now you get murdered. Why do we have replay if you can't even get it right? So that's why it might seem a little long sometimes, because you want to make sure you get it right.
Well, that's the thing. You said replay, it takes 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes at the longest if it's a tough call. But like you said, if you've got, let's just use Earl Weaver coming out or Cito Gaston or something to argue with you for 10 to 15 minutes on the same call, you save 10 minutes, by replay,
Right. And that's just it. I mean, replay was never going to be the end all. Replay was never going to suddenly it's all unicorns and rose petals and there's never going to be any controversy whatsoever in calls. It's just never going to happen, ever. It's never going to happen. I've seen replays, 2 angles looks out, 2 angles looks in. Just the camera angles, I mean, it's that close of a call, and it's one that it really, you try to decipher and make the best call you can, but it's not the end all be all. And I think a lot of people thought that would be the case, we have replay now, nothing will go wrong. Plus you got to remember too, there's strategy to replay. You can't just look at every call. I mean, the manager has challenges and we have guidelines and stuff. And that the entire reason we have that is so we don't have these 3.5-hour games end up being 5.5-hour games because we're looking at everything, So a manager's got to figure out, do I want to use my challenge now? Is it important enough to use the challenge on this one, or should I? There's some strategy involved, and which is the way I think it should be. And sometimes there's just calls that they, quite frankly, in a nothing situation may think that you're wrong and may, but they're going to let it go because they don't want to burn their challenge for something that. And how many times have we seen a game where they're out of challenges, now they really need one now?
Yeah, now they're screwed.
Yeah, and so there, there's a lot that goes into it. I will never have a perfect system because there isn't one.
You're absolutely right. There is not one. I've got a couple more questions, and I'll let you go because I know you're busy. But who gave you fits? Who you guys just for whatever reason, what manager or player, you guys just didn't get along?
Well, we'll probably have to do a part 2 of the Dale Scott interview. You mentioned Cito. Cito Gaston and I, for some reason, if I said day, he said night. If I said blue, he said red. We just could not agree on a lot of things. And
So suffice to say, he wasn't thrilled when he saw you were in the you got to play it, or you were on the crew.
Well, no, but I think one of the advantages when he saw me walk on the field with the crew is, well, I know what I'm going to pick on today.
How many times did you run him?
Well, I think I've only ran him 2 or 3 times, but one time in Texas, he comes, he's bitching about pitches, and he storms out to the mound to talk to the pitcher.
Yeah.
And I know what's going on, so let's get it over with. So I head up there, and when I get there, he immediately started, where the hell are those pitches? Blah blah. I said, Cito, we're not going to talk about pitches. He goes, heck, and he goes off, and I eject him, which I knew was going to happen. And he's going up, and finally he says, you know what, I am so sick and tired of this. He goes, when this game's over, meet me outside and we'll take care of this, And I go, oh, this is great. I said, Dr. Bobby Brown was the league president at the time of the American League. I said, we write our reports to the league president. I said, well, Dr. Brown will be thrilled to find out that you're threatening his umpires. And he goes, blank, Dr. Brown. And I go, he'll be thrilled to hear that too, because that's right in the report, But he was one. George Bell, the Blue Jays. Tony Phillips played with the Tigers. I think he was with the A's. Joe Carter. A lot of Blue Jays there.
You're going to be big in Toronto now.
Well, I'm already big in Toronto after that playoff game I had. That's. Ironically, that was where my last game was too when I got hurt, was in Toronto. So they were all clapping when I'm going out in the stretcher, and people say, oh, that was nice. I go, nice? They're just thrilled that I'm leaving. Are you kidding me?
Well, yeah, obviously you retired because of the concussions you had, and you saw the stars. You got carried off on stretchers, and it's amazing that more umpires and more catchers aren't. I'm sure we're going to find out later down the road that some of these catchers just have the CTE and just like the football players, because that ball, it hits you so hard. I mean, you see the masks go bonk, and that, even though you've got the padded mask, that thing still is going to hurt.
Well, when you see a ball hit, for example, 3 out of the 4 major concussions that I had, the ball hit and just dropped straight down.
Wow.
And it's not that impressive. Sometimes you'll see it and it'll glance off and go flying off, and now it's like, whoa, look at that. But a lot of times those are better hits because you're not absorbing the entire thing. When you see a ball hit and just go down, basically you've just absorbed that entire impact. And I don't care what kind of pads you have or whatever, if it hits you the right way and the right angle, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna rattle your brain. And a concussion is basically the brain within your skull being bruised, basically.
Exactly.
And so it's all the equipment in the world and whatever. We are taught, especially since we've really gotten much smarter about concussions in the last 15 years, 20 years, of our positioning behind the plate in what we call the slot. The slot is between the catcher and the hitter, depending on what side the hitter's out. And that's where you're looking, but you don't want to get too close to the catcher or directly behind the catcher, because that's the kill zone. That's when a hitter, that's when most of those foul balls are going to go back that way. And so we have a diagram thing that shows an umpire behind a catcher, and it has a green zone, a yellow, a red, and a blue. You want to be in the green zone. That yellow is getting more into the kill zone. And then of course the red and blue are you're asking for it, because that's where you're going to get hit, the high probability of getting hit more. But that being said, you can get hit anywhere, nowhere you're at. If the ball finds you, it finds you. And then
yes, it does.
And then it's just a matter of the angle, the velocity, and how it's absorbed. If we have great equipment and stuff, if it's absorbed the way you hope it is, the equipment absorbs a lot of it, and you're rattled, but you're not concussed. But then if it hits and 3 out of my 4 were chin shots. Which are not that usual. Usually it's up in, and it's just like a boom. It was. It was and the mask flying off, and it sounds like an explosion, and you're just going, oh, did this happen again? So yeah, but it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing that we have found, obviously, with the football and other, research they've done. It's a very serious thing that many times won't even show how bad it is until later on down the road. So that was key in my decision. I could have come back, obviously, when I was recovered from the concussion, but I was close to retirement anyway. And I just thought, I'm playing on house money. I'm going to walk away.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I've had no repercussions from it. And there was none of the testing that I've done showed even any yellow flags. So I'm probably going to be okay, but nothing's guaranteed that down the road I may have some issues. Yeah.
What now? I know a lot of my friends and people that I've talked to, they want to know the magic words and what will get you run quicker than anything. You got Cito coming out, or you've got even a mild-mannered guy like Bob Melvin with the A's coming out, and you can see the smoke coming out of his ears. What's going to get him run when he comes up to you? You're doing the plate.
Yeah, anything that's personalized. If I've got a call out safe, whatever, if they come out or a player says, that's the worst blankety blank call, I can't believe you made that blankety blank call, whatever. He's talking about the call. But if he says you're a blankety blank, or you did this, or blah blah blah, now it's personalized. You're going to get ejected. Obviously, there's automatics, contact, spitting, kicking dirt, throwing dirt, what we call showing you drawing a line. A hitter draws a line where you thought the pitch was, oh, you want to be an artist? Why don't you go to the clubhouse and do some art, because you're done here. There's automatic, you can't argue balls and strikes or check swings or step box. Those are in the rules. Now, that doesn't mean I call a strike. They go, that pitch is outside. Okay, you're ejected. But you certainly, and for obvious reasons, because you have a ton of pitches that you call during a game, and if you can argue every pitch, Christ, we'd be there a long time.
4-hour game.
And check swings are the same type of thing. You can't argue them. And again, I'll yell, but if they leave their position, or if they, and then, showing up. Sometimes a manager won't say the magic words or won't throw anything or anything. He's just there too long. You just tell him. You just say, listen, you're repeating yourself again. You think he's safe. I've got him out. That's what we're going with. And if you want me to run you, I'll run you. But we're done here. It's just basically, this is going to end now. Either end with you in the dugout or end with you in the clubhouse. So, that's kind of how it works.
Can you give me a funny run story, like one that you had your mask on and you were like laughing under your mask after?
Well, I've got a great one. Tom Kelly of the Twins. I was working the plate in Oakland, and this is back in early '90s, when they were still in the same division. They were both pretty good teams, and this was like a August game or something. It was a pretty big game. And we had a tie score in the top of the 8th inning, and Minnesota got runners at first and second, nobody out. So their next hitter was Steve Lamberdozzi, who was an infielder for the Twins. Put down, and in American League, you didn't see a lot of sacrifice bunts, okay? In the American League,
what the hell was that?
Yeah, but he puts down a perfect bunt, sacrifice bunt. Runners advance. Steinbach comes up. His only play is to first base, and he throws down there. The only problem was Lamberdozzi failed to run in the running lane.
Right.
And so the ball, goes off his shoulder or something. Anyway, he's definitely out of the running lane. It wasn't that tough of a call, frankly. But so boom, that's interference. You're out, and the runners nobody can advance on offensive interference. So they have to go back to first and second. So Lamberdozzi, he's starting to argue. And here comes Tom running out. And just because of the situation, he had the go-ahead runs at second and third with one out. All of a sudden, he's first and second with one out.
Right.
In the 8th inning. So I'm figuring it's going to be a pretty good argument, just if nothing else, in the situation. he comes out, and I go, Tommy, he's out of the running lane. He goes, and he goes, I know he's out of the running lane. Everybody can see he's out of the running lane, and you made a great call. And so I start laughing. Now it looks like he's just
Going off on you.
reading me the riot act, right? I start to snicker, and he goes, "You can't laugh! You can't laugh!" He goes, "We're on camera," and so I'm like this, and he goes, "Here we are, first and second tie game," and he puts down a beautiful bunt, a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful bunt, and he runs down there, and what does he do? He doesn't run on the running lane. So what do? You do your job and call him out. He can't do his job. You do yours, and now I got to come out here and look like an idiot, and so. Everybody, the Oakland fans are screaming, and of course the Twins dugout thinks, well, Skip's really giving in. Let Skip go after this guy, and like he's backing him up as players. So finally he goes, so that's it. So now they're first and second, one out. We screwed the whole thing up, and I'm going to go back to the dugout. I can't believe it, and boom, he runs off. So after the game, my partners come up and they go, "What the hell was that? Why didn't you run him? He was going goofy." And I go, "You have no idea. You have no idea. I was doing everything I could not to laugh as he was going off, making this spectacle of what looked like a real good rear end chewing of an umpire who just screwed him out of a sacrifice. And as it turned out, he was backing me the whole way. He was just getting Lamberdozzi out of there and trying to show his players that
exactly.
He was backing them up. I had friends call me who were watching the game. They said, "What are you doing? Why didn't you run him?" And I would just laugh and go, "You listen to this story." So that's not the norm, but every once in a while you get something like that. It's pretty funny.
Did you and TK have a laugh over that the next day or so? Would you?
TK, I think he got run as a manager 3 times, maybe.
Right.
I mean, I got him one. I was one of them. But if every manager was like TK, man, our life would be a lot easier because he was fair. He was fair. And he was funny. He was funny. One time in Toronto, he was on defense, and his pitcher threw a kind of a ball in the dirt, and the Toronto player made a check swing, and I had no swing, but the catcher goes, he tipped it, and I said, I didn't hear it too. I go, no, yeah. So Tommy, he goes, Scotty, he tipped it, and I go, no, he didn't. He goes, I don't give a rat's ass. He goes, it was a bad pitch anyway. It's like, I mean, stuff like that, you just start laughing, because and trust me, you don't get that from you don't get that type of, you get it from some guys, but not a lot of guys per se. They're too focused and
That's why I'm glad you came on, because you're bringing out stuff that the normal people don't get to hear or know. Because, I mean, if you were on a major league field for a whole game, which I've done one time, you hear stuff and see stuff, and you can't help but laugh, because some of the stuff people say, you just like, how did you come up with that? I mean, some of the colorful, let's just put it, colorful language that they'll use, is just really.
It's a family show. I could drop a few just in some of the stories of I was trying to edit myself, but it's a whole different experience, and you really honestly just have no idea. I mean, and then when you have the opportunity to actually be there and see it and hear it and just it can be pretty doggone funny.
I've got one quick question, one quick comment. You were in the World Series in 2004 for this old man, a Red Sox fan, winning in 2004. Did you soak in the moment, knowing that the Red Sox had just, quote, broken the curse, and 86 years have all gone away in 4 games? Did you guys take that in?
Well, here's the story about that World Series. First of all, I got a ton of friends in Boston, one of my favorite cities, and
good answer.
Well, yeah, and it's true. I mean, I just that was the year they were down 0-3 to the Yankees, and they won 4 in a row, which had never happened before, right? And the hated Yankees, and frankly, down 0-3 and down, I mean, it was not looking good for them,
No.
But they come back and they sweep the Yankees. Well, the night they I think the World Series started on Saturday. Mike and I flew in on Thursday. That last game where they swept the Yankees was on Wednesday, so it was the day after their last game. And now they're moving on. So I'm flying to Boston, and I'm getting there a couple days early just because I have friends there and some cross country, whatever. I got into Boston Thursday. That city, everyone in that city was walking about a foot above the ground.
Yep.
They had just won the World Series. I mean, they hadn't even played yet. They had just slayed the mighty Yankees, hated Yankees, after being down 3-0 and come back. I've never seen that town. Boston, I love Boston, but yeah, it could be a little gruff or a little, sarcastic or a little, whatever. These people were. It was like everybody had smoked a split or something. Because they were above the. And I told Mike, I said, I told my friends John and some other people I know there. I said I've never seen this city like the World Series was just an afterthought almost.
Absolutely.
I mean, after what had just happened. So now we go into that. As it turns out, they swept the Cardinals. I think there was only one close game, maybe of the four, which might have been my play game. I think game 2, Schilling was the starter. Game 2 there in Fenway. I kind of wish they had swept. I mean, they swept. I kind of wish they had won it in Boston.
Yeah.
Just to see how insane that curse being broken would have been. It ends up they win it in St. Louis, so you didn't have the insanity of the city going crazy, obviously. But to answer your question, I know what was I said. Absolutely, everybody did. But it was all. I didn't necessarily realize it going into Game 1 of the World Series, but there was nobody who was going to stop the Red Sox.
No, they were on that roll. I mean, it was just, you saw it. I mean, even the Cardinals, Larry Walker was on that team, Albert Pujols, Jim Edmonds. They were like, we don't know what the hell hit us. It was like a buzzsaw. And the Cardinals clearly had the better team.
Yeah,
but, when you have Manny and David Ortiz and all these guys going off, and David Ortiz personally wrecked the Yankees in that ALCS. I mean, there's nothing you can do. It's that slippery slope. You're there, but you're grasping at straws, and there's nothing you can do, and there's no feeling like it. We can't do anything.
Yeah, and I mean, it was such a run. In fact, throw a little politics in there. In fact, after that, and what had happened, and they broke the curse, I thought, well, there's no way Kerry is going to lose to Bush in the election, which was like a week later, or just a few days after the series ended. And, that streak stopped with the Red Sox. It didn't go on. But no, that was I've had 3 World Series. 2 of them were sweeps, and the 2 bookends were sweeps, and in the middle was a 7-game. And they all had their own, personalities or whatever. But the Red Sox won. And I was, because of all the friends I have in Boston, the people I know there, I was happy for them. Obviously I wasn't rooting for anybody, but I was happy for them because, well, Red Sox fans are die hard. Just I don't know how to explain them. I mean,
Speaking to one.
It's in their blood. It's part of their soul. And I'm not saying there's other teams that have that, but New England it's a
different atmosphere. It's a different animal.
It's a different animal. I mean, St. Louis is a great baseball town, and people, when they wear their red, and they're goofy about their Cardinals, and they attend games and all that, the whole thing. But it's just a different thing there in New England, especially when they were in that drought.
I've told people this, and one lady argued with me. She works I was trying to get some information about Boston College and where they played a football stadium and stuff. And she says, oh, this is a Patriots town. I said, no, I don't care how many Super Bowls the Patriots win. Boston will always be a Red Sox town, because you always see people walking around Boston, even in the middle of winter, in Red Sox gear. And, I'm the only member of my immediate family born in California. All my family's from New England, especially the Boston area. And it's born into you. Like you said, the passion, we can cuss the team out, but nobody else can. We can yell at Big Papi or Manny or PD or whoever, but you can't, and
right.
It's a love affair. That city loves the Red Sox more than the Celtics, Bruins, and Patriots combined, I believe, because, what better way to spend a Sunday afternoon than sitting in Fenway Park having a beer watching the Red Sox?
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. Take it, and you know more than I do, but I mean, I agree. But take it a step further. They're passionate about all their teams.
Yeah,
They have
absolutely.
a passion about all their teams. But the Red Sox is this heavenly plane that I can't explain. I mean, I've been to every city and stuff, and there's passionate fans, and some cities way more passionate than others. And I mean, New York fans are passionate about their team or whatever. But there's something about that New England and that Boston love affair with the Red Sox is really something.
It is something to see. You have to experience it. You have to go to Fenway Park and experience it, especially if it's against the Yankees, because it's like a World Series atmosphere when the Yankees come to town, or the Yankees go to the Red Sox go to Yankee Stadium. It's
Right.
unbelievable. One more question, Dale. You came out as the first gay umpire. And I know you're very proud of that fact, and I'm very proud for you, man. I'm very happy for you because I believe all people are created equal, whether you're gay, straight, black, or white. It does not matter. If you can do the job, more power to you. What was it like once you came out? Was it like a big weight lifted off your shoulders? And did your crew know before you came out? Did they know that you were gay?
Yeah. Well, it was a huge weight off my shoulders, but the umpire staff, the people in Park Avenue, Major League Baseball, they had known for years. I mean, Mike, my husband now, but at the time we were in a domestic partnership, but he had a spouse ID, just like the wives get,
Right.
with MLB. He was on my insurance. I mean, so this was no shock to Major League Baseball, the people I work for, and of course the umpires I work with. But the teams didn't know, the media didn't know, the fans didn't know. It wasn't public, out there in the public. I mean, all my friends in Portland do it. But still, the fact was, I was still stepping out there when I came out publicly. I mean, no active male sports official in the Big Five sports that had ever come out publicly, and Violet Palmer of the NBA, she came out the summer, or I came out in December of 14. I believe it was that summer of 14 that she had announced that she was gay. So we were the first two in the big, sports, active officials to come out. I came out in December, so it wasn't baseball season. It was a whirlwind, unbelievable. I mean, I truly found out the speed of social media and the internet. Not even so much social media, just the internet, because I wasn't even on social media then. How fast things go, but it was still not till March until I was actually on the field for an exhibition game, and so I had no idea what the reaction would be by players and coaches and managers, fans. I just didn't know if there would be a reaction. I didn't know if there would be a negative, a positive, whatever. And I kind of figured it would probably just be business as usual, because quite frankly, as I told interviewers in December, I'm pretty sure they're more concerned about me getting pitches and plays right than what
Absolutely.
I do
They got
after
a
the
game
game.
to win.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they're concerned about. As it turns out, that first game, I had my first exhibition game, early March of 2015. I had it was Cleveland and Cincinnati, and I first two innings at first base, and I went to third. In spring training, a lot of times the base umpires will switch up every few innings, and I went to third. So in comes Marlon Byrd, longtime outfielder. He played with several teams. I'd known him for a long time, but he was with the Reds then. And as he's running in after the half inning was over to go to the third base dugout, I'm just standing. He goes, Dale, and he comes running up to me, gives me this huge bear hug, and he says, "I am so proud of you, man. You're free now. You're free. I am really proud of you." And I didn't expect that at all.
That must make you feel really good.
It really did, and I said, "Thanks, Marlon." And then later that game, Joey
You
Votto.
threw him out. No, I'm just
yeah, exactly. Later that game, Joey Votto says he congratulated me, but that entire season I had maybe those two, and then maybe one other player, a base coach, and a trainer. That was it. No one else, no one said anything negative. No one else even acknowledged or said anything like that, which frankly, that was fine, but I wasn't sure what it would be like. And then I thought for sure going into the season, I for sure I'm going to get some verbiage from the stands. I mean, when you're, especially at first and third, they're right there, and there's lovable idiots in the stands all the time. So I mean,
you're talking about Philadelphia fans, right?
yeah, and that would be high on the list. But not if they yelled something I never heard anything bad. I mean, I did hear. See, one of in the article about when it came out on Outsports, it mentioned how much I'm a big University of Oregon Duck football fan. Right? This one guy in Atlanta, he said, "I can't believe that you came out as a Duck fan." he goes, of course it makes sense with all the uniform changes, but I said that's good. I mean, that was good. And he rode me for 8 innings about all the uniforms the Ducks have and how, the SEC is so much better than the Pac-12, but you guys sure have pretty uniform, but again, and that was fun. I mean, I was actually having some fun with that game. But I was thrilled with the response, basically, which was really no response.
Right.
And certainly not at all a negative response. So and it was a really that first time I thought I walked on the field both the spring training, but as the season started that year, I thought I'm so used to hiding things. I mean, I did that for years. I did it with, the other umpires stuff didn't even approach this with me until the late 90s. I'd been in the league for, excuse me, maybe, 12, 13 years or whatever. But that was my default is this defense mechanism, because that's what you did. That's what I did my entire life, and it was really strange, but very liberating. To when I would stand on the field and I think, anybody right now, because who's that number 5? They could Google it and see that I'm a gay umpire and could open the floodgate, or whatever. And it was, and I thought, well, here I am. I mean, if you would have told me, Bob, my first 15 years in the big leagues, including my first 20 years in professional baseball, including the 5 years in the minor leagues, someday you're gonna come out, I would have said that's never ever gonna happen. There's no way that I would do that, because that would ruin my career. It would ruin everything I built up. I mean, I did everything I could not to have that secret revealed, at least publicly, for sure, and for many years even within the ranks. But it was so liberating. I thought, what, you can actually stand out here now and take a deep breath and say, this is me. And luckily, when people were yelling, it was because they really thought I screwed up a check swing or a steal play, and it had nothing to do with my personal life.
Well, Dale, I'm very happy for you. I know it's liberating, and you are a free man. You and your husband are doing great. That's awesome. People are people. We all put our pants on the same way. It doesn't matter, like I said earlier, if you're gay, straight, black, or white. If you can do the job, more power to you. It doesn't matter. And that's the way I've always looked at life. And I'm glad that you and I have connected and bonded a little bit and got to chat. And I would love to do this again, and maybe see if I can get some other umpire and do like a round table with you guys, and just like have you guys play off each other. I think that would be fun.
Well, it's funny, Bob, and I thank you for saying that. It's funny that when you start talking with somebody, you get a question and it'll all of a sudden spark a memory of something that happened that you hadn't thought about in years, and all of a sudden you go, oh, but there was this one time in Cincinnati and blah, 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 or whatever, and stuff that you just haven't thought about in a long time. So and when you get a couple umpires together,
the stories,
it can be. Now that may not be a family rated show, so you might want to put it. You might want to put a disclaimer on that one. I don't know.
That would be like doing 20 minutes with Lasorda, because every other word's going to be an F-bomb.
Yeah. It's enter this space at your own risk.
Exactly. Dale, thank you so much, buddy. And I'm going to click off here with the recording, and I'll talk to you for a second, and I'll let you go. Thanks, Dale.